Unveiling the intriguing tale. Melina. King Aurelius greets his wife with a surprise he didn't anticipate that morning. He smiles tightly as he turns to her, Polly, holding a wine pitcher. Quickly steps back from the table, avoiding eye contact. It's oddly comforting to know that even the Queen's presence unsettles others in the room. The Queen surveys the surroundings, a slight curl forming on her lips and nose. "I can see that," she remarks casually, standing with regal poise as her advisors bow, draped in an emerald gown and sapphire jewelry. She resembles a magnificent peacock, radiating power and intimidation. Her gaze shifts to Polly, briefly assessing her revealing attire, before returning to her husband. "Really, Tyndall, during a strategy session? How tactless." She reprimands loftily. Polly blushes, her freckled cheeks reddening as she lowers her head, concealing her face with blonde hair. Aurelius takes care to keep his wife separate from his attendants, but today, those boundaries have been breached. The assembly of advisors observes the couple, hesitant to speak. Even Folk remains silent, though Aurelius feigns casual amusement with his lips curling. A fleeting glint of irritation passes through his eyes. Their relationship is strained, a fact not lost on me. Over their nearly decade-long marriage, no love has been lost. He resents her for failing to bear an heir, and she resents him for inheriting the crown that should have been hers by birthright. Yet, Orea's law dictated that she couldn't rule independently due to her lack of inherent power. Marrying Aurelius enabled her to remain queen, albeit with him as the true ruler. The populace of Highbell Kingdom is divided in their loyalty. Some stand by her, given her family's historical rule. After all, her family had governed Highbell for generations. Her father's passing occurred soon after her marriage to Aurelius, leaving him an outsider. Sympathy lingers for her. Once the promising princess whose prospects crumbled. They pitied her for her powerlessness, then and now for her childlessness. Others, particularly the nobles, support Aurelius. His prosperity reversed Highbell's near bankruptcy. He saved the impoverished Sixth Kingdom by proposing marriage, flaunting his endless wealth. Melina's father accepted, swayed by the enticing offer. I wonder if she regrets it. A standoff develops between the two before us. Tension always simmers, a constant undercurrent. I remain still, my ribbons rustling against my back. Side by side, they compose a striking couple. I resent the image they project. While Aurelius exudes natural charm, Melina exudes elegance. Her pale skin, revealing blue veins, carries an air of refinement. Even her sleek white hair suits her, a Collier family trait. My gaze shifts between them, my stomach knotting uncomfortably when she's near. Since arriving in Highbell at Aurelius's behest, her loathing for me has been vocal. Initially, I couldn't fault her. Finally, Aurelius tilts his head, conceding this small victory. "You heard the Queen," he tells Polly, dismissing her with a wave. Polly departs hastily, leaving the wine pitcher behind. With Polly gone, Melina fixes her gaze on me, emanating a frigid glare. It rivals our harshest winters. "You shouldn't leave your shiny plaything lying around during war discussions, husband," Queen Serafini remarks disdainfully. I purse my lips, restraining myself from speaking. She pivots to her husband, disregarding the men present. "May I have a word with you?" Irritation gleams in his eyes, but he realizes she won't relent. "Excuse me," he says to the others, then exits the room, the Queen trailing him. King Aurelius pats his back condescendingly as they pass. "Women. Aurelius," he scoffs. The Queen clenches her fists, but they depart for the hallway without retort. "Now's my opportunity. I won't stay and give Folk a chance to provoke me." Silently, I retreat, slipping through the archway and dashing down the dim corridor. Where did she go? Falk's irritated voice spurs me to increase my pace, regrettably. My haste leads me to the atrium, not my chambers. Oh well. I'll wait here until Aurelius returns or Falk leaves. As I enter the atrium, I feel a modicum of relief, yet the snow-covered dome ceiling heightens the feeling of confinement. Windows shrouded in grey light do little to ease my unease. My eyes search for the sky, but it's obscured. On the bright side, the bed from Aurelius's prior use is gone. One less reminder to sour my mood. My fingers trace gilded ivy vines against glass walls. My slippered feet gliding on polished floors. Gold-plated plants and statues abound, creating an overwhelming display of opulence. Gold pervades the palace, but it's particularly excessive here. Perhaps it's the blocked windows that make it feel vulnerable to the elements, or the fact that even nature hasn't been spared. While Aurelius might see riches, I see a cemetery. I head toward a pile of pillows and blankets on the floor, seeking warmth. Despite the grandeur, the room remains cold due to its lofty ceilings and size. Kicking some pillows into place, I sit down, drawing a blanket over my lap. Just then, the front door swings open, making me startle. And you thought this was so urgent that you had to interrupt my meeting, Melina, I freeze. Realizing that the king and queen have entered to converse. Your meeting, Melina retorts. Tyndall, how could you initiate an attack on the Fourth Kingdom without informing me? Divine help me. If they catch me here, fear grips me, unrelated to the cold. I need to escape now. The king and queen advance deeper into the atrium, their footsteps resonating like faint snaps of a whip. There's no way I can retreat through the doorway without them spotting me. They approach nearer, and only a few potted plants provide cover. At least I blend with the surroundings. Finding a concealed spot, I lie on my stomach, covering myself with a blanket, trying to appear less human and more like a lump. I don't answer to you, Melina. I'm the king, and I rule as I see fit. You intentionally excluded me from this. You informed me the army was heading out for offensive tactics, she retorts sharply. They are, Aurelius responds nonchalantly. Her response is a scoff. If we're heading into war, I should have been consulted. Hybel is my kingdom, Tyndall. The Colliers have ruled it 4 generations. She retorts vehemently. I'm surprised by her boldness. Yet, you're the first in the Collier family line without any inherited power. Aurelius counters, his deep voice filling the space. Not only did you lack power, your family drained every bit of wealth from your coffers. This land was bankrupt before my arrival. You'd still be a destitute princess with debts if not for me. So don't claim Hybel as yours. You lost it when I crossed your gates. My heart races. This is highly private, not meant for my ears. Melina would be furious if she knew I heard this. I shouldn't. But I can't help but lift the blanket near my eyes, peeking through. Through the gap, I witness the king and queen confronting each other about 10 feet away. Their faces ablaze with anger and eyes icy with animosity. Though the queen's lack of power isn't a secret, it's unusual for it to be so openly hurled at her. Or perhaps this is their typical private discourse. That's irrelevant, Queen Serafini hisses. You're violating peace treaties held by the 6 kingdoms for centuries. And you did it without discussing it with me. I know my actions, he responds coolly. And you should remember your duties, wife. She narrows her cold blue eyes. Duties, like sitting in my chambers with my ladies in waiting, knitting and wandering through the ice garden. She shakes her head with a bitter laugh. I'm not your possession, Tyndall. Indeed, you're not my possession, he remarks, casting a disdainful look her way. An angry blush colors her pale cheeks. and her hands clench in her skirts. "And who's to blame for your absence from my bed?" I cringe, my ears practically burning. I thought their conversation was private before. Now it's gotten much worse. Aurelius scoffs. "You can't bear children," he tells her. And I notice her head flinch back, as if he'd slapped her. "I don't wish to waste my time. This," he gestures between them, "is a waste of time. Now, if your emotional outburst is finished, I have work to do." He starts to leave, but her voice stops him in his tracks. I know the truth, Tyndall. My gaze flits between them. Intrigued by her enigmatic statement, moments pass, his shoulders tense, and he turns to face her again. His brown eyes radiate venom, even making the queen step back. It seems she's overplayed her hand. I don't know what cards she's holding. "I would advise caution if I were you," Aurelius tells her with a harsh tone, a clear threat. His cruelty makes the hairs on my neck stand. Melina watches him, and I'm captivated, barely daring to blink. "Return to your chambers," he concludes icily. The queen swallows hard, her trembling hands hidden in her skirts. She lifts her chin defiantly before leaving the room, letting the door shut behind her. She's no pushover, that's for certain. I'm too scared to breathe, my heart pounding loudly in the silence. After a few moments, I let out the breath I've been holding, push aside the blanket, and sit up. I need to return to my room before Aurelius returns to the library. If he calls for me and finds me missing, he might deduce that I overheard their conversation, which wouldn't bode well for me. Hurriedly, I exit the atrium, navigate the hallway, and halt just outside the library entrance. I hear murmurs of advisors and King Aurelius' audible chewing. Chew, breathe, chew, breathe. It's annoying. I peek around the doorway, relieved that everyone is focused on their tasks, with no attention directed at my enclosed space. The fading daylight signals the approaching night, and I have to reach my room unnoticed before Aurelius comes back, out of sight. Out of mind, hopefully. He'll likely be irritable after speaking with Melina, and I'd rather not be caught in the crossfire. To reach my private rooms, I have to cross the library. Aurelius arranged the upper level of the castle to grant me freedom. The cages built into each room led to small connecting hallways, allowing me to move from one room to another, all the way across the palace. However, this means I have to traverse each room to reach my destination. I scan for any observers, then tiptoe across the caged portion of the library, fixated on the archway at the other end. I must move quickly yet cautiously, not drawing undue attention. 3 steps from my goal, a voice interrupts. "Oh, you're back." I freeze, and as my eyes dart to the source, I realize no one is watching me. Aurelius is striding in, holding my skirts. I leap for the archway and sprint down the hallway, narrowly avoiding Aurelius's gaze. I don't stop running until I pass my bathroom and dressing chambers. Gasping for a breath, I lean against the wall. I pause for a moment, reflecting on what I've heard. Not only the overheard conversation, but also what I've picked up from Aurelius's war council. It seems even Queen Seraphine is wary of his audacious actions. It's not surprising he excluded her from his decisions. He's driven solely by his agenda and plans. It's one of his qualities. I admire his unwavering confidence. Unlike Melina, he wasn't born into royalty. He wasn't groomed for monarchy. Yet, he's a skilled ruler. Hybel required both money and a strong leader, both of which Aurelius provided upon his ascent to the throne. A shiver runs down my spine, and I rub my arms, trying to dispel the sensation. On the bright side, if Aurelius wanted to summon me, he'd have done it by now. Dim light fades, casting my room into shadows. I move away from the wall. Heading to my bed, I rest my head back, relishing my successful retreat. Even though my thoughts spin, I'm fortunate I wasn't caught. I ponder for a while, soaking in the knowledge I've gained, not just from the overheard conversation, but also from the fragments of information I've gathered. The approaching war, the power. I dread waking up. My aversion to mornings is nothing new. I'm just not wired to be an early riser. Adding to that, frequent hangovers from excessive wine make early mornings even less enjoyable. To top it off, the absence of sunlight is a perpetual state. Years have passed since I last saw the sun's rays. Today, though, there's an extra layer of dread as I rouse from slumber. An unusual sense of urgency hangs in the air, maybe signaled by the wind's wild howling outside. The gale widow's mournful cry. It feels like time is up. The last grains of sand have settled in the hourglass, and there's no counting left to do. My eyes open, greeted by a frosty window pane, and I shiver as I push aside the ribbons entwined around me. My body aches. A reminder of last night's brutality. Sitting up slowly, I glimpse Thorn's station nearby, standing watch on his morning rounds. A pang of regret surfaces. He wasn't there last night when I needed protection. I had insisted on my privacy at night. Though now I can't help but wonder if it was a mistake. Thorn, unlike me, would have intervened or informed Aurelius about the assault. Speaking of which, there's no way I'm going to confide in Aurelius. That would only enrage Melina further. The last thing I need. Getting up takes more effort than it should, and I wince at the strain on my stomach. Thorn eyes me with concern, his attentive nature almost overwhelming. I lie, blaming a stomachache from too much wine to divert his attention from probing further. Questions are risky. I rub my tired eyes, spotting a gauzy gold gown hanging by the bars of my cage. Its sheer fabric and revealing design send a shiver down my spine. Aurelius has left a message, clear as day. Tonight, I'm expected to play a role, a prized possession to be displayed. I resist the emotional turmoil, knowing that the gown aligns with Queen Seraphine's degrading words. Turning away, I leave the gown untouched, heading into the adjoining room where Thorn's gaze no doubt follows me. Alone in the darkness, I take a deep breath to calm myself. With great effort, I let go of clenched fists, allowing my tense state to subside. Thorn's absence signals that he's granting me some privacy. Approaching the vanity table, I increase the lantern's light, casting a warm glow. My ribbons assist in shedding the dress, pulling the fabric around my feet. Standing naked before the mirror, I examine my bruised form, a testament to the guard's aggression. My golden skin marred, the bruise resembling a tarnished spot needing polishing. I press my fingers gingerly, wincing at the tenderness. It brings to mind Aurelius' gold set, always requiring diligent care. I don a full-length robe, covering my body and concealing the damage. Checking my scalp, I wince again. It's too sensitive for my touch. How did you sleep? Aurelius's unexpected voice startles me, and my heart races as I whirl around, hand over my chest. His presence, a surprise due to his silent approach, leaves me breathless, scolding him for startling me. I sense his underlying sadness when I fail to respond promptly. In that fleeting moment, Aurelius resembles not the king, but Tyndall, vulnerable and real. He voices his longing for my company, and despite my anger and confusion, his words touch a softer part of me, suppressing my turmoil. I adopt a measured tone, acknowledging his busyness. The chasm between us is wider than the physical space. Uncertainty clouds my perception of him, making it impossible to address the turmoil. The mention of Falk's involvement only amplifies my inner struggle. I want to confront him, demand answers, yet I hold back. My gold eyes drill into his, an unspoken plea for understanding. Aurelius's directive snaps my thoughts into focus. He wants me to comply, to trust him. My internal battle escalates as I search for an answer to his question. A question that should have an easy answer, given our history. The conflict within me is overwhelming. Can I still trust him after all that transpired? As Aurelius departs, the weight of the moment crashes over me. Collapsing into a chair, I stare at my fragmented reflection. Grappling with the complexity of my emotions, I question my own doubts and try to rally my confidence in him. Yet, the shards of my trust lie scattered on the floor, much like the shattered lantern. Thorn's appearance and subsequent exchange inject a brief moment of camaraderie. It's a welcome distraction, a connection to the familiar. But as the day progresses, my unease grows. The impending night looms, and the decision I must make haunts me. What would happen if I refused to comply? I carefully take my time while brushing and braiding, moving with deliberate slowness as if this unhurried pace can somehow extend my destiny. I'm feigning unawareness that I'm running on borrowed time. Life allows for various pretenses, and one can adopt them so convincingly that they even start believing their own fabrications. We all play roles, standing on pedestals under the spotlight, adapting personas that help us navigate the day and find solace at night. Currently, I'm merely going through motions, avoiding thoughts about what's impending tonight. However, my body senses the truth. It manifests as a tightness in my chest and labored breaths. Attempting to distract myself and stay occupied, I play the harp and engage in sewing. Yet there's only so much of these activities I can endure before boredom drives me to the edge of sanity. At one point, I'm so restless that I begin pacing around my confined space, my agitation resembling that of a caged tiger's restless strides. On the bright side, the pain from the burn on my hand has subsided. There's a slight gash running through the center of my palm, which imparts an orange hue to my otherwise cool, golden complexion, though my stomach still aches. My scalp has recovered, as long as I avoid touching it. Peering out of the solitary window in my room, all I see is a furious snowstorm, pelting the glass with white flakes. Nightfall is imminent. I wish I could tether the sun in the sky, keeping daylight from fading away. But such wishes are reserved for stars, and I seldom get to glimpse those. By this point, Folks and Aurelius's armies should have reached the borders of the Fourth Kingdom. I could consult the library for confirmation, yet that's the last place I want to be today. Their decision to attack King Ravinger's domain still strikes me as reckless. It's not just the breach of a long-standing peace treaty by Aurelius, but also the fact that Ravinger is far from benevolent. He's known as King Rot, and not merely due to his power over decay and death. Rumor has it that his cruelty is enough to make anyone flinch. His realm is one of corrosion and decay, where he revels in wickedness. His ability permits him to corrode anything he wishes: crops, creatures, land, people, but it's his maliciousness that might be his most malevolent trait. I hope Aurelius comprehends the risks. For making an adversary out of someone like Ravinger is perilous. Failure on Aurelius's part could result in consequences that wealth can't buy his way out of. A notion that terrifies me. Sometimes, I wish he'd be less confident in his belief that money can solve all problems. Aurelius takes his riches for granted, understandable, given the opulence that surrounds him. Everywhere I look, surfaces gleam with gold. He knows he'll remain as affluent as he desires. Queen Serafini finds me ostentatious and excessive, yet what about this castle and its contents? Her shoe soles are made of gold and silk, a luxury only her perspiring feet get to enjoy. The dungeon structure beneath the palace is pure gold, where prisoners wither away. Even the toilets are gilded, used for the most mundane of tasks. I've realized that an abundance of wealth can become meaningless over time, a hollow existence. Possessing all the gold in the world doesn't equate to possessing real value. However, perhaps Melina's animosity toward me isn't solely due to Aurelius keeping me here. Despite being married to her, maybe the Queen wishes Aurelius had favored her with his attention because of what his attention signifies. Because of the way he affectionately calls me his precious. Strangely, I find myself pitying her, empathizing with her loveless, childless marriage, and the loss of the kingdom she never got to rule. She competes against a gilded orphan like me. While contemplating these matters, I lean against the golden bars, gazing at the snowfall outside. This envy, if it is indeed envy, has festered for years. I can't alter it now. What's done is done. The Queen will forever regard me with enmity. It's an inescapable reality, yet, if she envies my relationship with Aurelius due to his gold-touched endearment, she fails to grasp the whole picture. I won't deny the benefits of being gold-touched, but it also has drawbacks. People see me as nothing more than my metallic appearance. My golden hair, aside from my eyes and teeth, I'm essentially a gilded statue to them. Something to be seen, not heard. An object that can be purchased for a night. Abruptly, my bedroom door opens, causing me to startle away from the window. I turn to see a maid entering, approaching Thorn, who remains vigilant by the wall. She imparts quiet words to him, and I observe cautiously. As she leaves, I move toward the other end of my enclosure to face Thorn. What's happening? Thorn gestures at the hanging gown. It's time. A frigid sensation shatters within me. Fragments of ice cascading down through my feet. Already, I ask, my voice almost unrecognizable, timid and quiet, akin to a skittish mouse. This isn't the time to be timid. I must exhibit strength. Thorn nods, and I exhale forcefully. A strand of hair shifting away from my face. I swallow hard, attempting to ingest my nervousness, to swallow it into an abyss within me. Stepping away, I remove the simple gown I had been wearing and don the sheer one, moving mechanically, my face devoid of expression. When I'm fully dressed, I examine the gauzy fabric draping over my body, determined not to flinch, as anticipated. It's transparent enough to reveal every contour, even a subtle glimpse of my nipples' hue. The dress features transparent sleeves made of intricate gold lace, clasps at the shoulders holding it in place. It flows over my chest with a loose neckline, exposing a hint of my bruised abdomen. Slits on each side of the skirt extend from my toes to my hips, offering views of my skin no matter where someone stands beside me. The dress is deliberately designed for easy access, an invitation for intimacy. Aurelius has never clothed me in something so provocative. While I frequently wear alluring dresses, none are as daring as this. Most of my body remains reserved for him. However, for the first time, I'm garbed like a royal accessory, ready to be paraded. As daylight recedes, a chill infiltrates the room. I gaze up at the skylight, watching darkness encroach. A sense of desolation washes over me, shivers prickling my arms. Behave tonight, a memento to exhibit, maintain composure, leave the conversations to the men. Gritting my teeth, my spirit rebels. Does he trust me? Shouldn't he always? Absolutely. That's the only answer I possess. I must trust him, but I won't behave like a mouse. I recall the initial time I stepped through this castle a decade ago. Entering a palace after the places I had visited was a surreal experience. It truly felt surreal. I was 15 years old, but I was just a girl in a limited sense. My innocence was taken away. That's how some might describe it. But that wasn't my perspective. I never lost my innocence due to carelessness or neglect. It was stolen from me through cruel exploitation, piece by piece. I can vividly remember each fragment breaking away, leaving me exposed and vulnerable, a raw soul exposed to the world's harsh realities, with a metaphorical chip on my shoulder and a constant bitterness at the back of my throat. No, when I walked into Hybel with Aurelius for the first time, innocence wasn't a part of me anymore, but he rekindled something I thought was forever lost: trust. He wasn't a king back then, and the castle wasn't a golden spectacle. It's quite challenging, even within my own thoughts, to reconcile its current appearance with how it looked back then. The walls were made of mottled grey stone, cut from the icy mountains the palace was perched on. It was both gloomy and lavish, an ashen grey fortress nestled in the snow. Despite the grandeur surrounding me, my initial feelings upon arriving were somber, as I knew that our brief period of solitude was coming to an end. "I'm planning to propose marriage to the princess of the 6th Kingdom," he told me, taking me aback with his words. There was no prior mention of this. He had his plans and ideas, I knew. But at that moment, I was more engrossed in the peace, safety, and friendship we shared. However, I always knew that an inevitable twist was looming. I gazed at Aurelius, my handsome wanderer with snowflakes in his blonde hair, beside a frozen fissure. I asked him why, though he didn't explicitly acknowledge the heartbreak in my voice. His brown eyes softened as he looked at me, with the campfire crackling like the tension between us. "The kingdom is in dire financial straits." I wrinkled my nose in confusion, asking how a kingdom could be broke. Aurelius smiled, swiping greasy fingers down his pants after discarding the remnants of our meal. "Kingdoms can face financial difficulties quite easily. In this case, Hybel has struggled for years. It's essentially a frozen wasteland at the world's edge, no significant agriculture, no valuable mines to sustain them. Without strong alliances and trade, they are crumbling. It's a wonder other rulers haven't seized the opportunity." As I curled my toes in my fur-lined boots, trying to bridge his words to his intentions, he explained. "And what about me?" My voice struggled with the lump in my throat. Aurelius stepped closer to me, snow nearly reaching his bootlaces. "You'll stay with me. I made a promise, didn't I?" His words brought instant warmth and relief, almost enough to counteract the cold of the night. "With you by my side, we'll rescue the 6th Kingdom from ruin." I smiled at him, cherishing his clean-shaven face, a ritual he upheld despite our nomadic lifestyle, where we often had only each other to interact with. He was meticulous about his appearance as he was about his plans. While he didn't need to explain everything to me, he chose to anyway. He trusted me with his vulnerabilities, hopes, and dreams. A man without a noble bloodline, family, or land. He aspired to save a kingdom, to revive a place languishing in a frozen tomb. We conversed deep into the night as he unfolded everything, his plans, intentions, and my role in his life. It was an ingenious plan, meticulously crafted down to the smallest detail. I was in awe of him. Aurelius helped me to my feet, his touch warm and steady. "I'll place you in a palace, Ilanda. You'll be safe. With me, yet." He would marry the princess. He caressed my cheek with the edge of his thumb, and I leaned into the touch, a first for me. It felt like petals unfurling to soak in the sunlight. "Yes, if all goes as planned, she'll bear my name, but you have my love, precious." A ring might be insignificant in comparison to a heart. There, amidst the snow, he made love to me, under a tent of leather that absorbed our heat and murmurs, while we clung together until the last stars faded. As I walked downstairs with the guards at my side, the hallway's brighter light gradually adjusting to my eyes, memories of the past flood back. The worn wooden floorboards and grey stone walls have been replaced with opulent gold floors. and walls gleaming with a servant's careful touch. My rooms are on the upper floor, requiring me to descend 6 grand staircases. My legs ache, a reminder of my confinement. Painted portraits of ancient royals observe me as I pass by, their numbers growing with each descending level, as sconces illuminate the night with their flames. Led to the first floor, music drifts from the ballroom, and my escorts halt before ornate doors. One guard opens them, but my reluctance is clear. Thorn clears his throat, and I inhale a tense breath as I face the light, heat, and sound emanating from the room. I can't hide. I'm not a mouse. The ribbons on my dress feel like they tighten slightly, urging me to brace myself as I step in. Once inside, my gaze sweeps across the scene. Musicians play in the center, their music sensual, accompanied by dancers moving in fluid response. The room is a blend of fabric and skin, limbs intertwining in an intangible melody. Chandeliers cast sparks on the floor, and at least 200 people revel in King Aurelius's ostentatious wealth. Dressed in lavish colors, the scent of their sweat and perfume overwhelms me. Despite the blizzard and the room's size, the collective warmth makes my neck prickle. It's either from the heat or my nerves. Along the walls, more merriment unfolds. Tables line the sides where guests drink, and saddles hint at further debauchery. 2 groups indulge in alcoves, while a woman's moans blend with the music as she's shared between 2 men. At the far end, on a raised dais, my king presides. He's the epitome of the Golden King, his crown and boots shining, the embodiment of wealth and fortune. His russet eyes find mine as I move further into the room. He's seated on his throne, flanked by 2 saddles, his attention pulled by nobles. People of high bell, he declares, his voice resonating through the room, celebrating the 6 kingdom's strength. I feel a tension in my chest, knowing what led to this celebration. Our victory would not have been possible without King Aurelius, and our alliance with Fifth, he continues, acknowledging the king beside him. The music swells as he addresses the crowd's cheers. His eyes lock onto mine as he commands, "Ilander, come forward." A path clears as I walk, 200 eyes following me. Whispers spread, assessing my appearance and value. They don't see a woman, but a rare possession. I walk, my heart pounding and my spirit sinking with each step. Curtsying, I pause before the dais. The room goes silent, and all I hear is my heartbeat and the wind outside. I rise, meeting his gaze as he extends his hand. Climbing the dais, I stand beside him. He scans me, acknowledging the changes made with my ribbons. "You look splendid," he comments, clicking his tongue disapprovingly. He runs a knuckle along my cheek, causing an involuntary flutter within me. He taps my chin and releases it. "Be well behaved tonight." His words echo in my mind. I nod, swallowing the bitterness rising within me. "Yes, my king," he smiles, transforming his face into an appealing expression that tugs at my heart. "Go sit with King Aurelius. We owe him a debt." I turn and approach King Aurelius, determined not to reveal my apprehension. He leers at me, his gaze raking over me with lust. The music intensifies, and I gather my resolve. Tonight, I'll handle whatever comes my way.
Subscribe for the next chapter.